The stars burned cold and distant as the UHSF destroyer Relentless moved through the darkness of space. Commander Sarah Chen sat in her command chair, watching the endless void through the main view screen. Her crew worked quietly at their stations, running the same patrol route they had run 100 times before. Nothing ever happened out here on the frontier. That was about to change. Lieutenant Marcus Webb looked up from his tactical station, his eyes narrowed. "Commander, I'm detecting an active scan. It's penetrating our hull." His fingers moved quickly across his console. "This isn't a passive sensor sweep. Someone is actively probing our systems." Sarah leaned forward. "Source? Unknown configuration. The scanning pattern doesn't match any registered species in our database." Marcus frowned at his readings. "They're being very thorough. They're analyzing our weapons, our engines, our power systems, everything." Sarah felt a cold sensation in her stomach. In galactic protocol, such an intrusive scan was considered an act of aggression. It was like someone breaking into your home and taking photos of everything you owned. No peaceful civilization did this without permission. Hail them on all frequencies. Let them know we've detected their scan and request immediate communication. The communications officer worked her station for several moments before shaking her head. "No response, Commander. They're ignoring us." Then the view screen flickered. An alien face appeared, and Sarah had never seen anything like it. The creature had 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern on its face, and its skin was a dark purple color with silver markings. When it spoke, the translation software rendered its words in a cold, dismissive tone. "Primitive vessel of the species calling themselves humans. I am High Arbiter Velthrone of the Velkari hegemony. We have analyzed your technology and found it crude and inefficient. Your presence in this region of space is no longer permitted. You will submit to inspection and surrender all territorial claims immediately." Sarah kept her face calm, though anger burned in her chest. "High Arbiter, I am Commander Sarah Chen of the United Human Space Forces. We have conducted peaceful operations in this region for 15 years. Under the Galactic Convention on First Contact, both parties must engage in diplomatic dialogue before any territorial disputes can be addressed." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "We do not recognize your authority to quote galactic law. Your species is barely capable of basic space travel. Your weapons are outdated. Your shields are weak. You have no leverage here." Marcus spoke quietly from his station. "Commander, I'm reading 6 more vessels decloaking around us. They've had us surrounded this whole time." Sarah's jaw tightened. The Velkari had planned this ambush carefully. They had scanned the Relentless, judged it inferior, and now moved to intimidate humanity into submission. She took a deep breath and activated her communicator. "High Arbiter, humanity does not respond well to threats. I strongly suggest we begin diplomatic negotiations through proper channels. There is no need for this confrontation to escalate." Velthrone's 4 eyes seemed to gleam with amusement. "You misunderstand your position, human. This is not a negotiation. This is us informing you of reality. To demonstrate our superiority and ensure you understand, we will now disable your vessel. Consider this a lesson in humility." The screen went black. Marcus shouted a warning, but it came too late. A wave of energy washed over the Relentless, and every system on the ship went dark. The lights died. The engine stopped. Even the backup systems failed to activate. The ship went silent except for the sound of the crew breathing in the darkness. Emergency lighting flickered on after a moment, casting everything in a dim red glow. Sarah immediately began assessing the situation. "Damage report. Everything is offline," Marcus said, his voice tight with frustration. "They hit us with some kind of electromagnetic pulse weapon. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. It didn't damage our systems permanently, but it's going to take hours to reboot everything." He slammed his fist on his console. "We're completely defenseless." Sarah stood up, forcing herself to remain calm. Her crew needed to see confidence, not panic. "Begin emergency restart procedures. Communications, do we have any way to send a message to Fleet Command?" The communications officer worked with a manual interface, her face illuminated by the weak glow of a backup screen. "I can jury-rig a basic distress beacon. It won't be fast, but it will eventually reach Earth." "Do it," Sarah ordered. She looked around at her crew, seeing anger and fear in their eyes. These were good people, trained professionals who had signed up to explore the galaxy and protect human interests. They had not signed up to be humiliated by an arrogant alien species that attacked without provocation. Through the viewports, she could see the Velkari ships holding position around them. They were waiting, watching, probably enjoying their demonstration of power. Sarah knew what came next. They would board the Relentless, take her crew prisoner, and parade them around as proof of human weakness. But Sarah Chen had spent 20 years in the Space Forces. She had studied military history, including the darker chapters of human warfare. She knew that humanity had capabilities they did not advertise to the galaxy. The Relentless was a patrol destroyer, designed for peacekeeping and exploration. It was not designed for war. Its weapons had safety limiters. Its combat systems were restricted by multiple protocols. Everything about it was built to project peace, not power. The Velkari had scanned the ship and seen exactly what humanity wanted them to see. They had mistaken restraint for weakness. As the alien vessels began moving closer, preparing to board, Sarah allowed herself a cold smile in the darkness. They had made a very big mistake. The emergency session of the United Human Space Forces High Command had been going for 3 hours. Admiral James Kowalski stood at the head of the table, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display showing the location of the Relentless. The ship's distress beacon had reached Earth 2 days ago. Commander Chen and her crew were now prisoners of the Velkari hegemony. "They've issued an ultimatum," Admiral Park said, pulling up the communication that had been broadcast across known space. The same alien face that had confronted Commander Chen now addressed all of humanity. High Arbiter Velthrone spoke with absolute confidence. "Humans of Earth, your vessel has been captured. Your crew is unharmed but detained. We have studied your technology and found it lacking. The Velkari hegemony claims the 12 colony worlds you have established in the Kepler expanse. You have 72 hours to evacuate all personnel from these worlds. If you do not comply, we will consider it an act of war and respond with extermination. Your species is in no position to resist. Accept this reality and there will be no further conflict." The message ended. Silence filled the command room. Then Admiral Rodriguez slammed his hand on the table. "This is outrageous. They attacked our ship without provocation, took our people prisoner, and now they're demanding we surrender 12 colonies? We have 30,000 people living on those worlds." Admiral Kowalski raised his hand for silence. "The question before us is simple. How do we respond?" He looked around the table at the faces of Earth's military leadership. "I want honest assessments. Can we win a war against the Velkari hegemony?" Admiral Chen, no relation to Commander Sarah Chen, brought up a tactical display. "Intelligence reports indicate the Velkari hegemony is a coalition of 6 different alien species. They control approximately 400 star systems. Their combined fleet numbers over 10,000 capital ships." She paused. "On paper, they vastly outnumber us." "On paper," Admiral Kowalski repeated. He turned to a quiet man sitting at the far end of the table. "Director Barnes, your analysis?" Director Barnes of Human Intelligence Services stood slowly. He was older than most people in the room, old enough to remember when humanity first reached the stars. "The Velkari made a critical error. They scanned the Relentless and believed what they saw represented our full capabilities. They don't understand what they were looking at." He activated a different display showing the technical specifications of the Relentless. "Every human warship operating in explored space is built according to the soft power doctrine we adopted 40 years ago. When we first met other alien species, they were terrified of us. Our ships were too aggressive, our weapons too destructive, our tactics too brutal. Other species had never seen anything like human military doctrine because they had never fought wars the way we did." Admiral Park nodded slowly. "So we deliberately designed weaker ships. We put limiters on our weapons. We restricted our combat AI. We created protocols that prevented our vessels from fighting at full capacity." "Exactly," Barnes agreed. "The Relentless has multiple safety systems preventing it from using its full firepower. Its targeting computer is deliberately slowed. Its missiles carry reduced payloads. Even its armor plating is thinner than our engineers recommended. We built it to look peaceful because we wanted to be peaceful. But we kept the plans for the other ships," Admiral Kowalski said quietly. "We kept the weapons research. We kept everything just in case." Barnes met his eyes. "We did. In classified shipyards, we have vessels that match our old military specifications. Ships built the way we used to build them, before we decided to play nice with the galaxy. We also have all the research we discontinued when we adopted the soft power doctrine, weapons we considered too destructive, tactics we deemed too aggressive. All of it is still there, waiting." A younger admiral spoke up, her voice uncertain. "Are we really considering this? If we reveal our true military capability, Every species in the galaxy will fear us again. It took decades to build trust. The Velkari didn't give us a choice, Admiral Rodriguez said angrily. They attacked us. They're threatening to exterminate 30,000 humans. What are we supposed to do, just roll over? Admiral Kowalski held up his hand again. Director Barnes, what do your analysts say? Can we win this decisively? Barnes pulled up another display, this one showing battle simulations. If we remove all restrictions, if we deploy our legacy fleet, if we activate our full combat AI and use unrestricted warfare protocols, our analysts give us a 97% chance of defeating the Velkari hegemony within 30 days. The war would be short and extremely one-sided. The room fell silent again. Everyone understood what was being discussed. Humanity had spent 4 decades building a reputation as a peaceful, cautious species. They had deliberately weakened themselves to fit in with galactic society. Now, in 72 hours, they could throw all of that away and show the galaxy what humans were really capable of. Admiral Kowalski stood and walked to the window, looking out at the lights of Geneva below. My grandfather fought in the last war on Earth. He told me once that the worst thing about humans isn't that we're good at violence. It's that we understand violence. We've studied it. We've perfected it. We've turned warfare into a science. He turned back to face the room. He also told me that the sign of a truly advanced civilization is knowing when to use that knowledge and when to keep it locked away. What are you suggesting, Admiral? Park asked. I'm suggesting we give the Velkari exactly what they asked for, Kowalski said with a cold smile. We evacuate the colonies. We comply with their demands, and then we show them why humanity wrote the Geneva Conventions. He sat back down. We didn't create rules for warfare because we're peaceful. We created them because we know what happens when there are no rules. The Velkari are about to learn that lesson. He activated his command interface. Send orders to all classified shipyards. Begin activation of the legacy fleet. Remove all safety protocols from existing vessels. Deploy intelligence assets to map every Velkari military installation. And someone get me a secure channel to our special forces units. He looked around the table. The Velkari think they've won. Let them think that for 72 more hours. High Arbiter Velthrone watched the human colony worlds with satisfaction. Massive ships bearing the markings of civilian transports had arrived at each of the 12 worlds, and humans were streaming aboard in organized evacuation procedures. The primitive species had accepted reality. They knew they could not fight the might of the Velkari hegemony. They flee like scared animals, his tactical officer observed. Their evacuation will be complete within the next 6 hours. Velthrone nodded. Ensure our scientists complete their analysis of the captured human vessel. Once we understand their basic technology, we can better exploit their remaining territories. He turned to face the officer. How many ships are involved in the evacuation? Approximately 200 vessels across all 12 colonies. They appear to be primarily transport ships, cargo haulers, and medical vessels. None of them register significant weapon signatures. As expected, Velthrone said. He had spent days studying the data collected from the Relentless. Human technology was straightforward and unremarkable. Their weapons were simple kinetic and energy-based systems. Their shields were adequate but nothing impressive. Their engines were efficient but not particularly fast. Everything about them suggested a species that had stumbled into space travel without truly understanding it. Meanwhile, on the human ship Mercy's Hand, Commander Sarah Chen sat in the cargo bay with her freed crew. The Velkari had not expected a rescue attempt. Human special forces had infiltrated their flagship 3 days ago, posing as captured crew members from a different vessel. They had spent 72 hours mapping the ship's interior, identifying weaknesses and waiting for the right moment. When the Velkari focused all their attention on the colony evacuations, the humans struck. The operation had taken 12 minutes. The Special Forces team had disabled the security systems, freed the prisoners, and seized a Velkari cruiser from their own hangar bay. The aliens were still trying to figure out what had happened. Commander Chen, the Special Forces captain said, approaching her. We're receiving orders from Fleet Command. They want you to send a message to the Velkari. Sarah took the communication device and recorded a simple message. High Arbiter Velthrone, you scanned our ship. You saw what we showed you. Big mistake. She sent the transmission and watched it broadcast across all Velkari frequencies. On the Velkari flagship, Velthrone received the message with confusion. How had the humans escaped? Before he could investigate, his sensors officer shouted an alarm. "High Arbiter,
The evacuation ships are changing."
On his main display, Velthron watched something impossible. The 200 human ships that had been peacefully evacuating colonists suddenly dropped their external hulls like snakes shedding skin. Underneath the civilian exterior, each vessel was a warship. What the Velkari had thought were cargo haulers were actually destroyers. The medical ships were carriers. The transports were battle cruisers, battle stations, Velthron screamed, but his ships were scattered across 12 star systems, positioned to occupy the colonies after the evacuation. They were not prepared for combat. The humans had placed their warships exactly where they needed them, while the Velkari watched and did nothing. The battle began in 12 places at once. The Velkari had superior numbers in total, but in each individual system they were outnumbered and outmaneuvered. Human ships moved with precision that seemed impossible. Their formation patterns shifted and adapted in real time. Their targeting was perfect. Their weapons hit with devastating accuracy. In the Kepler-7 system, a Velkari battle group of 15 ships faced 6 human destroyers. The Velkari commander felt confident until the first human missile salvo arrived. The missiles moved impossibly fast, far faster than anything the scan of the Relentless had suggested was possible. They dodged point defense systems with movements that seemed almost alive. When they struck, each missile released a swarm of smaller warheads that overwhelmed shields through sheer volume. 3 Velkari ships died in the first 30 seconds. The Velkari returned fire, but their weapons seemed to miss. The human ships moved with irregular patterns, never staying in one vector for more than a few seconds. Their electronic warfare systems jammed targeting sensors. Their point defense shot down every incoming missile. When Velkari energy beams did connect, they splashed harmlessly against shields that were orders of magnitude stronger than what the Relentless had displayed. In the Kepler-11 system, the Velkari tried a different approach. They attempted to ram a human carrier with 3 heavy cruisers, accepting the loss of their ships to take out what they believed was a valuable target. The human carrier launched fighters, and the Velkari learned another lesson. These were not simple craft with basic weapons. Each fighter moved with the precision of an AI-guided system, coordinating with its squadrons in a way that suggested a single controlling intelligence. They tore through the Velkari cruisers like sharks through a school of fish. Across all 12 systems, the pattern repeated. The Velkari fought bravely, but they were fighting an enemy they did not understand. Every piece of data they had collected from the Relentless was worthless. That ship had been operating at perhaps 20% of its actual capability. These unrestricted human warships were something else entirely. High Arbiter Velthron watched his fleet die on a dozen screens simultaneously. 6 hours after the battle began, 70% of his expeditionary force was destroyed. The rest were fleeing or surrendering. Not a single human ship had been lost. "How is this possible?" he whispered. His tactical officer had no answer. A transmission came through from a human admiral. The face on the screen was older, with gray hair and cold eyes. "High Arbiter Velthron, I am Admiral James Kowalski of the United Human Space Forces. Your attack on our vessel and your ultimatum to our colonies have been answered. You demanded to see our warships. Here they are." In the space around every colony world, human ships gathered in formation. More vessels were arriving through jump points, and these were even larger than the ones that had participated in the battle. Velthron realized with horror that what he had just witnessed was only a fraction of human military power. The real fleet was just now arriving. Admiral Kowalski continued speaking. "For 40 years, we limited ourselves. We built weaker ships because we wanted peace. We restricted our weapons because we thought it would help us fit in with galactic society. We put safety protocols on everything because we were afraid of what we could become." His expression hardened. "You removed those limitations when you attacked us. Every species monitoring this conflict should take note. Humanity tried to be peaceful. You responded with aggression. This is what happens when you provoke us." The Velkari Council of 6 species met an emergency session. High Arbiter Velthron stood before them, his 4 eyes unable to meet their collective gaze. The loss of the expeditionary force had shocked the hegemony, but the council members still believed in their ultimate superiority. They controlled 6 different civilizations, thousands of worlds, and a military that had never known defeat. The humans used deception, Velthron explained. They disguised warships as civilian vessels. They hid their true capabilities. This is a violation of accepted warfare protocols. Council leader Jarix, a tall being with scales that shimmered like oil, leaned forward. You told us the humans were primitive. You said their technology was crude. How could such a species defeat our expeditionary force so completely? They have been hiding their strength, Velthrone insisted. But we still outnumber them 50-1. Our full military has never been mobilized. Once we commit our complete forces, the humans will be overwhelmed. The council debated for hours before reaching a decision. The Velkari hegemony would mobilize for total war. Every species in the coalition would contribute ships, weapons, and soldiers. They would gather the largest fleet ever assembled and crush humanity through sheer numbers. The humans could not possibly stand against the combined might of 6 civilizations. The mobilization orders went out across Velkari space. What the Council did not know was that human intelligence services had been monitoring their communications for decades. Every order, every fleet movement, every military installation had been cataloged and analyzed. Humanity knew where every Velkari ship was being built, where supplies were stored, and how their command structure functioned. Admiral Kowalski stood in the war room on Earth, studying the holographic display of Velkari territory. They're gathering their fleet at the Janir system. They plan to hit us with everything at once. A traditional approach, Admiral Park observed. Mass their forces and strike at our core worlds. They're thinking like a conventional military, Kowalski said. They haven't figured out yet that we don't fight conventional wars. He turned to his staff. Deploy the hunter groups. I want strike teams hitting supply depots, communication hubs, and shipyards. Avoid their main fleet entirely. Let them gather while we dismantle the infrastructure supporting them. Human ships began appearing deep inside Velkari territory. Small task forces, never more than 5 vessels, struck at targets far from the main battle group. They moved faster than the Velkari could respond, hitting multiple locations simultaneously before disappearing. A fuel depot would be destroyed in one system, while a communication relay was taken offline in another. Shipyards constructing new vessels suddenly found themselves under attack by forces that seemed to appear from nowhere. The Velkari tried to protect everything, spreading their forces thin to guard their territory. This was exactly what the humans wanted. Divided Velkari forces were easy targets. Human ships would strike, destroy their objective, and vanish before reinforcements could arrive. Commander Sarah Chen led one such task force. Her new ship, ironically named the Relentless II, was a true human warship with no limitations. She approached a Velkari logistics center with 4 other destroyers, their stealth systems making them nearly invisible. Multiple contacts, her tactical officer reported. 20 Velkari vessels guarding the facility. 20-5, Sarah said calmly. I've faced worse odds. It was not bravado. Human captains were trained to operate independently, to make decisions without waiting for orders from above. The Velkari military was rigid, hierarchical, and slow to adapt. Human doctrine emphasized flexibility, speed, and overwhelming aggression. The attack lasted 11 minutes. The human ships coordinated their assault with perfect timing, their AI systems sharing targeting data in real time. Sarah's ship alone destroyed 6 Velkari vessels while taking minimal damage. The logistics center was reduced to debris, and the task force jumped away before the Velkari could even send out a distress call. Across 200 star systems, similar scenes played out. The Velkari hegemony was bleeding from 1,000 cuts. Their supply lines collapsed. Their communication network degraded. Ships that were supposed to join the main fleet found themselves stranded without fuel or ammunition. The coalition that had seemed so powerful began to fracture, as individual species questioned whether this war was worth the cost. High Arbiter Velthrone received reports of disaster after disaster. In the span of 10 days, the humans had destroyed 30% of the hegemony's logistical infrastructure. The main fleet sitting in the Janir system was combat-ready but effectively trapped. They could not move without supplies. They could not coordinate without functioning communications. They could not even receive clear intelligence about what the humans were doing. How are they everywhere at once? Velthrone demanded. How do they know where to strike? His intelligence officer brought up a disturbing analysis. We believe the humans have been monitoring us for years, possibly decades. They knew everything about us before this war even started. Every weakness, every vulnerability, every supply route. They planned for this conflict long ago. Velthrone felt cold realization wash over him. The humans had not stumbled into being a military power. They had deliberately studied warfare in a way the Velkhari never had. Every battle they fought, every tactic they used, showed deep institutional knowledge of conflict. This was a species that understood war at a fundamental level. "Contact the humans," he said quietly. "Offer negotiations." The message was sent, but Admiral Kowalski's response was immediate and harsh. "You attacked our ship without provocation. You took our people prisoner. You demanded we surrender our colonies. You threatened us with extermination. There will be negotiations, but first you need to understand your position." On his command, every human fleet in Velkhari space activated their position transponders simultaneously. The Velkhari could suddenly see exactly where every human ship was located. They were surrounding the homeworld of every species in the hegemony. Hundreds of human warships sat in orbit, their weapons trained on the planets below. Velthron stared at the display in horror. While the Velkhari had gathered their fleet in one location, the humans had systematically positioned forces at every critical world in the hegemony. They could have ended the war at any moment. They could have destroyed every Velkhari homeworld simultaneously. Instead, they had waited, demonstrating that they held complete control. Admiral Kowalski's face appeared on every screen across Velkhari space. "You wanted to see human warships. You wanted to test our strength. Now you understand. We could have ended this war on the first day. We chose not to because we are not the monsters you tried to make us into. But make no mistake, we will never again be threatened. We will never again be attacked. And we will never again hide what we are capable of." The Galactic Council Station orbited a neutral star, a massive structure where representatives from hundreds of species met to discuss matters of interstellar importance. Today the chamber was filled to capacity. Every civilization wanted to witness what would happen when the Velkhari hegemony formally surrendered to humanity. Commander Sarah Chen stood beside Admiral Kowalski as they entered the chamber. She wore her dress uniform, the same one she had been wearing when the Velkhari first attacked the Relentless 4 months ago. It felt like a lifetime had passed since that day. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had changed. Or perhaps humanity had simply stopped pretending to be something it was not. High Arbiter Velthron waited at the center of the chamber, flanked by representatives from the other 5 species of the hegemony. He looked smaller somehow, diminished by the weight of defeat. When Sarah met his eyes, she saw something she had not expected to find there: understanding. He finally comprehended what humanity was and what his attack had unleashed. The terms of surrender were read aloud for all to hear. The Velkhari hegemony would undergo complete demilitarization. They would pay reparations to the human colonies they had threatened. They would formally apologize to humanity and broadcast that apology to every known civilization. Most significantly, they would share all their intelligence on other potentially hostile species, helping humanity identify future threats before they materialized. Velthron signed the document with a trembling appendage. When he spoke, his voice was quiet. "Commander Chen, may I ask you a question?" Sarah nodded. "When we scanned your ship, we analyzed everything. We believed we understood your capabilities. How did we miss so much?" Sarah considered her answer carefully. "You saw exactly what we wanted you to see. The Relentless was designed to be a peaceful vessel. Everything about it was built to make other species comfortable. We put limiters on the weapons, restrictions on the combat systems, safety protocols on every dangerous function. We did this intentionally because we wanted to be the kind of civilization that used words before weapons." "Then why build warships at all?" Velthron asked. "Because we know our own history," Sarah replied. "Humans have fought wars for thousands of years. We have studied conflict, analyzed violence, and turned warfare into a science. We are very, very good at it. That's exactly why we try so hard to avoid it." She gestured at the chamber around them. "We built limited ships because we hoped we would never need unlimited ones. You forced us to show you what we really are." Admiral Kowalski stepped forward to address the full council. The chamber fell silent as he spoke. "For 40 years, humanity has operated under a doctrine of soft power. We deliberately weakened ourselves to fit in with galactic society. We wanted to be trusted. We wanted to be seen as peaceful explorers rather than potential conquerors." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the assembled representatives. The Velkhari attack proved that this approach had a fatal flaw. By appearing weak, we invited aggression. A representative from the Thalorian Collective, one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy, spoke up. Admiral Kowalski, your military capability is now undeniable. Many species in this chamber are concerned. If humanity can defeat the Velkari hegemony so decisively, what prevents you from conquering the rest of us? Kowalski's expression softened slightly. That is a fair question, and I will answer it honestly. Nothing prevents us. If humanity chose to become conquerors, we could probably succeed. We have the military strength, the tactical knowledge, and the industrial capacity. He let that sink in before continuing. But we do not choose that path. The reason we limit ourselves is not because we lack the ability to dominate. It is because we understand what domination costs. He activated a holographic display showing Earth's history. Images of ancient warfare, of devastation and suffering, of cities reduced to ash. My species nearly destroyed itself multiple times. We fought wars so terrible that we developed weapons capable of rendering our own planet uninhabitable. We created rules for warfare not because we are peaceful by nature, but because we learned what happens when there are no rules. The Geneva Conventions, the Hague Regulations, all of our laws regarding conflict exist because we needed them to survive ourselves. Sarah watched the faces of the alien representatives as they absorbed this information. Some looked frightened. Others seemed thoughtful. A few appeared relieved. We are asking this council to help us, Kowalski continued. We have proven we can defend ourselves. We have proven we can project power across hundreds of star systems, but we do not want to become a military dictatorship that rules through fear. We want to be partners in a larger galactic community. We want to use our capabilities to protect, not to oppress. The Thalorian representative nodded slowly. You are asking us to trust you. No, Kowalski corrected. I am asking you to hold us accountable. We will maintain our military strength because the Velkari attack proved that we must, but we will also accept oversight. We will share our military doctrine with allied civilizations. We will participate in collective security arrangements. We will prove through actions, not just words, that humanity can be trusted with power. The Council voted that day to offer humanity a permanent seat as a primary military power. The motion passed overwhelmingly. The galaxy had seen what humans could do when provoked. Most species preferred having that power as an ally rather than an enemy. 3 months later, the Relentless Two returned to the Kepler Expanse for routine patrol duty. Sarah sat in her command chair, watching the stars and remembering the original Relentless. The ship that had been attacked because it appeared weak. The ship that had been designed for peace. Her new vessel was different. It had no safety limiters. Its weapons were unrestricted. Its combat systems operated at full capacity. It was a true warship, built the way humanity had always known how to build them. But Sarah had insisted on one addition to the standard design. In the ship's central corridor, there was a plaque with a simple inscription. We limit ourselves not because we are weak, but because we are strong. We choose peace not because we fear war, but because we understand it. This ship carries the power to destroy, but its true purpose is to protect. May we never forget the difference. Lieutenant Marcus Webb approached her station with a report. Commander, we're receiving a message from a previously unknown species. They're requesting first contact protocols. Sarah smiled slightly. Respond with full diplomatic courtesy. Let's show them the peaceful side of humanity first. She paused. But Marcus, make sure our weapons are ready, just in case they decide to scan us. Marcus grinned. Understood, Commander. Though if they do scan us now, they're going to see everything. Good, Sarah replied. Let them see. Let the whole galaxy see. Humanity tried being subtle. We tried hiding our strength. The Velkari taught us that was a mistake. Now anyone who looks at us will know exactly what they're dealing with. Maybe that will prevent the next war before it starts. The Relentless Two continued its patrol, a symbol of humanity's new approach to the galaxy. They would still seek peace. They would still value diplomacy. They would still try to build friendships with other species, but they would do so with their full strength visible, their capabilities clear, and their resolve unquestionable. The galaxy had learned a lesson about humanity. Humans had learned one about themselves. Both would be better for it. In the end, the Velkari attack had accomplished something unexpected. It had forced humanity to stop hiding and to accept its place in the galactic community not as harmless explorers, but as a civilization that understood the true cost and true meaning of power. They had proven they could wage war. Now they had to prove they could wage peace just as effectively. Time would tell if they succeeded, but at least now they would do so honestly without pretending to be anything other than what they truly were.